Hey troops, it's Roy from Geeks Adventures. Woohoo! Broadcasting from the Clintonville section of Columbus, Ohio. So, an unexpected week evening post. Cause yes, I already did a Halloween thing, but doing another one. Putzing around getting some stuff done. And it just kind of hit me in the middle of all this that something really haven't talked a whole lot, especially considering it's Halloween. It's a piece of work that's kind of, at least for me in some ways, is kind of a bit of a legend almost. And actually over time it's kind of become a legend for a lot of folks, really, is The Crow. The film, as well as James O'Barr's seminal miniseries. So doing a little bit of another Halloween special about The Crow, both the movie and the original source material. The way I got introduced to it is actually, I graduated undergrad, God, I'm old, in 92, and desperate looking for a job, so working in a comic book shop. And let's see, that's 3 years after the miniseries had originally been released. Now, back then, way back in the day, indie books really were small print indie books, and you're struggling to find them. But you heard about the work, things like Love and Rockets, things like Mouse, things like The Crow. The book was like an urban legend back then. You hear about how the story was about this guy who saw his fiance murdered and raped in front of him. And as he dies, magically turns into this like nigh unstoppable demonic thing called the Crow. And stories about, wow, where did this story, is it true? Did this really sort of kind of happen? And the fact that since it was indie press, a small print, it becomes kind of an urban legend. You're trying to get your hands on a copy, yada, yada, yada. I got lucky since I worked in a comic book shop. I was able to get my hands on the trade paperback. It's interesting to see it, what James O'Barr created then, and to see what film and storytelling does now. Because at the time, there are umpteenth number of revenge pictures at this point. 5 tons of kung fu movies, tons of cowboy flicks, yada 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 yada. And then there's The Crow. Now, not that it happens a lot, but now seeing the nigh indestructible hero, traditionally in the origin, in the revenge flick, your hero is very mortal for obvious reasons, because in the end, when he strives to finally meet his nemesis, so on and so forth, that sense of humanity, yada yada yada. You feel empathy for this character, as the character struggles to find the person who killed his loved one, all this blah, 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 blah. And now, you've got characters like John Wick, like Robert McCall in Denzel Washington's reboot of The Equalizer, The Accountant, Ben Affleck's role as the accountant in the film The Accountant. All of a sudden, these characters who are force of nature gotta coming in as well. And then you've got The Crow, kind of like equal parts Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, wrecking hell and damnation on all who stands in his way. I remember once explaining to someone that the story is horribly violent. Let's be frank here. If you're familiar with the story, even the movie, making comparisons to Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers, as well as actually V, codename V for Vendetta, that's not much of an exaggeration. I think it's safe to say that, when you talk about the film and the story can be viewed from multiple layers. As far as grief goes, what is it? Depending on which source material, it's like, was it 5 to 9 stages of grief? This is 2. This is rage. Just say anger. No, 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 no. Anger is nothing. This is bringing down the, hell and heaven to its knees level of rage. Seeing Eric Draven, I mean, the story, I explained it to once that in some ways it is a love story. Frighteningly violent one, not the best one to introduce someone to in many ways. And like I said, if you're talking about stages of grief, it's only one, okay? But nonetheless, to see what he does, losing everything. Actually, it's reminiscent, that moment in Avengers Endgame. Yeah, I'm crossing streams all over the place. This is what happens when I do this after work. See, my brain just goes more than usual. That scene in Endgame where Thanos runs into Scarlet Witch and she's like, "We gonna finish what we started a little while ago, mofo." And Thanos realizing, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna kill me. No, if I'm lucky, she kills me. She's going to do a lot of worse things to me along the way to killing me." Kind of like this story. It's painful and horrific enough when Eric sees Shelley die, seeing her raped in front of him, seeing everything that happens when all they're trying to do is get home on a dark and stormy night. And you want to talk about being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Wow. And to see that rage unleashed. It's revenge in its purest form. You might call it that. In that heaven and hell ain't getting in his way. And I think it's safe to say both sides would be kind of going, "No, we staying out of this boy's way." To lose so much, to feel so much hate, breaks your heart. There is, and the umpteenth ironic thing, how much this film, the original story, is very much different from other revenge flicks or revenge stories. And you've got that final confrontation, blah, blah, blah. There is none, which is different from the film. In the source material, he basically, it's funny the things, sorry, I'm sidetracking again. The things that were changed to make the film a little more traditional, more palatable, more what people expect in a revenge flick. The umpteenth thing that's different in James O'Barr's story, there is no final fight. You're expecting the last showdown. But no. He runs into the rest of the guys who are involved in Shelley's and his death, and you see him just go buck wild. There is no fight. It's a slaughter. And it's sad, painful thing to watch, or read in this case, in retrospect. To see all that hate and anger and to have them finally let it go. It is very much a horror story. Not just in the way Eric just kind of rises like a kind of is demonic. Let's be frank here. But then, of course, the way he starts to hunt them down one at a time, it is a frightening thing to watch. But from the other side, for one, you're rooting for Jason in more ways than one. And it's interesting to see how, though, in the film, a lot of things are changed. One of the things I really didn't actually, and that's kind of one of the things I was kind of bummed a little bit about the film, was that you made him kind of mortal. You all of a sudden the Crow. One of the things I loved in the story was the fact that the Crow was kind of like, well, not necessarily a mentor, was a guide for him, talking to him. One of the saddest things is as Eric's dying and Shelley's dying, and Eric gets shot in the head, so he's kind of paralyzed on the ground, and his eyes are open, so he's seeing everything that's happening. And the crow keeps reminding him, "Don't look." And it's such a sad, heartbreaking thing to hear. This crow trying to save his sanity, whatever you want to call it, or trying to show what little mercy there is left, what little mercy there is left in the world, really. Although the interesting thing, I guess, the one thing. I keep kind of adding a really, really dark tone to the story, calling Eric kind of a demonic figure. At the same time, though, it's interesting how he saves the kitty and he saves Sarah, the little girl, and he leaves the notes to police, to both, letting them know, look, they're here. Please take care of them. And it's like, that the vestige, as much as there is this rage. To call it anger, it does a gross injustice to what he feels. It's past that. It's this literal kind of, this nuclear fusion burning that could, destroy anything is what he feels at this point. But, there's still that vestige inside of him, trying to save what can be saved. Which is one of the cool things they saved in the movie. And the movie in general, I really, as you can tell, really love the source material. The film itself, let's be honest, it's not perfect, but it still captures. It's like Constantine. It's not parroting the source material, but it captures the spirit of it so well. So I'm not talking about something very specific yet. Come on, give it some time. Like one of the things, they do change the character. The crow in the story is, like I said, he's Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. Okay, here he is vulnerable. Okay, yes, he regenerates, but they made the crow this, I don't know, like a mask. So of course, you come up with the idea of, well, if you captured the crow, blah blah blah. The rules you make up in the movie, because you got to think of something to make your character vulnerable, so that in the final fight, there's something to kind of go, oh, are they gonna make it? Duh, Ernie Hudson as the cop, he was so cool. The one thing that always gets me in the film is when Eric. It's one of the most, when they meet each other, and yeah, it's at the officer's apartment, and they talk about what happens and stuff, and it breaks your heart. The two of them are just talking, and there's still a vestige of humanity. Oh, and actually, that's something that Brandon Lee imparted to the character. It's reminiscent of what happened to V in V for Vendetta. In the source material, he's a psychopath, unabashed, merciless, unapologetically psychopathic. In the source material, in the movie, they softened it. I mean, he's still touched. He's still a psychopath, but. There's still a vestige of humanity, and kind of the same thing is done here, which is a testament to how much everyone misses Brandon Lee. The charm, the warmth he gives to something that is basically a killing machine. That scene with Ernie Hudson, that interplay, that's beautiful to watch. And every time in the books, even, there are those gallows jokes that Eric busts out throughout the story. They're pretty dang funny when Brandon Lee does it. And I think, though, on the flip side, just as there's this, the urban legend of the original story, kind of continues in this because of Brandon Lee's death. I remember I was at Marcon. This is years ago. One of the media guests. She was talking about how she was on set once. The prop master was the guy from The Crow. Now, fortunately, nothing happened. But, it was kind of one of those creepy moments where everyone was like, kind of one of those weird moments, really. But, that adds to kind of the what makes both stories, both versions so unique, is, these extra things, these ancillary things that all kind of add to the mystique. In some ways, the kind of creepy feel to it. And also what makes it so heartbreaking. You watch the interviews for The Crow, and the charisma, yeah, it's magnificent. Oh, and seeing him as Eric was just, it was sad. Film not and let's be honest, like I said, the film's not perfect, but it does what it does so wonderfully. I know it's what could have been, right? Yeah, seriously. Seriously. It was interesting. There was an article that was done, I don't know, a couple months ago. I think it was in the midst of one of those anniversaries or something. They're talking about the Crow curse. They're basically talking about how all the shows failed, and it's like, well, number one, how good were they? Yeah, varying levels of not bad. What were you thinking? And number two, let's be frank. It's like playing the Joker after Heath Ledger. I mean, I actually didn't mind Jared Leto's take on the character, but guys, come on, man. Good luck. It's like playing Superman after Christopher Reeve. I mean, Brandon Routh is amazing. I mean, Harry Cavill does a great job. People who have done it really well, but you got big shoes to fill. Same thing with this. All right. What exacerbates that is the history from everything else. You're not just telling a story. You're part of something bigger. Part of something that can be kind of sad, something painful, something that can drive you, a lot of different things. But anyway, just wanted to, it's Halloween, and memory serves, actually, doesn't a lot of this stuff happen on Halloween? Anyway, yeah, one of those things where old grumpy people like me get very nostalgic about. If you haven't had a chance to pick these up, the good news is that now this is a lot more manageable to get. And of course this, you can, yeah. So anyway, hey, Halloween's right around the corner. Y'all be safe. Have fun partying, going trick or treating, whatever it may be. May the force be with you. May the odds be in your favor. And like Eric and everyone says, can't rain forever, right? Be good to each other, okay, folks. Bye.